Okay. There we go. Right. Okay. So hopefully that's still showing my presentation to everybody. So here we go. So thank you for giving up your time and coming tonight. It does mean a lot to us that people are so willing to come on and engage with us and listen as we, you know, try and provide some support. Because especially when you're new in role and there may not be much of a handover in terms of what you've got to do, it can be pretty daunting. And the Sport 80 system is definitely one of those where, you know, once you know what you need to be doing and you've done it a few times, you know, it becomes very easy and straightforward to do. But perhaps that initial few times of learning it, it can be a bit overwhelming and you're not quite sure whether you're getting it as, you know, as correctly as it needs to be. So we're really going to focus on the basics and the most frequent types of processing that you're going to need to do in your new role. So if I move on from here, the first thing that we wanted to touch on is about who can be a member of a university archery club. Because this, I think, is sometimes an area which can sometimes seem like a bit of a grey area, or that we've had questions about from people. So only current students who are registered with the uni can join the university club. So if you've got members of staff, or you have got alumni, you've got friends, spouses, somebody that basically that doesn't actually study at the university and they want to be able to shoot with your club, they need to either have obtained their own individual Archery GB membership as a direct member, or they need to have obtained their membership through another club, in which case, you know, they will have their membership card and be able to prove to you that they're there. If they don't, then you're at risk of invalidating the insurance cover that's in place. So it is important to be aware of who's coming and shooting with your club, and just making sure that, you know, the people who should be university club members are members, and those that aren't able to join, making sure that they do have appropriate Archery GB membership, you know, in another way. What we tend to see with university clubs is there's normally one person that tends to be the primary contact for the club and tends to be the main administrator. Usually the club secretary, sometimes the president, we see that does that. However, you can have more than one person who has access to the club's account. You know, so if there's a few of you that work really closely together, you know, so more than one of you that deals with memberships, maybe you've got somebody who's responsible for registering your beginners courses, maybe you've got somebody who deals with setting up tournaments. Well, you can add access for those different people as well. So it doesn't all have to sit on the shoulders of one person. We are going to have a look at how you can add access to other committee members. But yeah, I think the main thing at this stage is that now that you're the main administrator, you will need to be there marked on the club's account as their super admin, the secretary, and the primary contact. So you're going to have this hat, you know, well, head full of hats that you're wearing, but all those different roles will make sure that you've got the right level of access to do what you need to do. And it will also make sure that we can keep you in the loop with any relevant communications or with things that you may need to do within the Sport 80 system as well. So how do I get access? This is quite a common situation that comes up. Hopefully everybody that's joined us today is all nicely set up already. Normally what will happen is your outgoing club secretary or whoever the administrator was, they will arrange your access to the club's account. And then once that has been put in place, you're then going to be able to access the account to view it. So there are two ways they can do that. And the most common way is for the outgoing administrator to email membership, and they just let us know about the role handover and ask us to sort out adding the right roles and granting access. It is possible for the outgoing secretary to actually make those amendments themselves within the system and set you up. This very much depends, I think, from secretary to secretary, how comfortable people feel in the system, perhaps how knowledgeable they might feel about doing that. I'm not really going to delve too much into the second option at this stage, because I really wanted this webinar to just be more about having those sort of basics in at this stage. So it's, kind of thinking about, that sort of initial level of what to do. Well, your easiest approach is to go with option one that's on here and do that. But for anybody who obviously is interested in building their skills and building their knowledge and abilities of what the Sport 80 system is capable of, obviously we can kind of explore that next level of admin, so to speak, in another webinar or separately after the fact. That's absolutely fine. So viewing the club's accounts, again, probably most of you are already finding that you're able to do that. For anybody who hasn't, the important thing is that you need to be able to log into our members portal to do this. So we do sometimes find that our new administrators might never have done that before. So we do have a sort of 4-step process to be able to get you activated, so that you can create a password and get yourself logged in. So I've put the details on this particular slide. We'll be sharing the slides of the webinar afterwards, but what I don't want to do is kind of go through and read everything out bit by bit when I know you're all more than capable of doing that yourselves. For anybody that's already logged into the portal, you just go ahead, log in as usual with your email address and password, and you're given the option of whether you want to look at your own personal account or the club's account. There is also an alternative way of viewing the club's account, which is always handy to know about as well. So I've just gone over that in the next few slides. So accessing the members portal through our website, there's a little person icon that you click on, and then you get your login page for you to sign in at that stage. Once you're signed in, you arrive at your welcome page, and from the menu that's there, you can select members portal, which will take you into the main portal that you'll be familiar with. This is obviously assuming that the first thing you see is your own personal profile. So let's say you've not been given the option of viewing the club's account. So you're just in there, you see your personal profile straight away. Well, to be able to switch over, you can go over to these 3 horizontal lines over on the top left of your screen, and they'll open up a menu. And at the top of your menu, you'll see your name, and there's a little arrow next to it. And if you click on that, it will bring you up a list of all the accounts that you have access to or that you have had access to within the system. So, for example, I've got a few here linked to myself. Just, for you guys, that will be selecting your university club, and then the view you will see will be your university club's main page that's in there. Now, you may find you very rarely need to do that, but it's one of those little things that's a good to know, just because, in case anything does ever go a bit awry when you're logging in, at least, you've got another route. So there's a few common login issues that tend to happen for people. So these could be things that you experience yourself, or it could be something that your members talk to you about experiencing. So the first one that's really, really frequent is people tend to get in touch and say, I can't remember my password and I'm not getting a password reset email. And there are normally two reasons for that happening. So the first could be you've not entered your email address exactly as it is on your records. So it's not recognizing you as being a valid user. So the example I've given here is, if your email address in the system is at googlemail.com, but you enter yourself as at gmail.com, it's not going to recognize you. It also won't be able to send you a reset email because obviously it's not going to recognize that gmail.com as being the valid user login. And the same with if this is someone's first time logging in, so actually they've never set a password, the system, again, it won't be able to send them password reset emails because they've never been activated. So they need to get themselves activated for that to be able to happen. The second most common thing that happens is people receive an error message that tells them they've got invalid credentials. In this situation, it tends to be to do with your password. So normally you have to reset your password every 12 months, and that's a requirement of the Sport 80 system for password security reasons. So if the last time you logged in was more than 12 months ago, you will get an invalid credentials message and you'll need to reset your password. The other thing that can happen is people reset their password, but then when they come to do the login, they've forgotten to update their autofill settings. So their autofill is still using their previous login details to do it. So it's just really important, again, if you reset, make sure that you're manually entering your password and then updating your autofill settings so that you can definitely get in. And then the third most common question we get is, I can see my personal profile, but I can't view the club's account. And that could be two reasons again with this one. The most common reason is that it's not actually been handed over properly to you. So something either needs adding or adjusting for you. The other things we've sometimes seen and that we mentioned in the kind of more informal conversation at the front was if roles accidentally get deleted, which affects people's access as well. If that scenario ever comes up, though, you're always welcome. You can contact us on the telephone or you can contact us by email, and we can work with you to figure out what's happened and to get you sorted and up and running. So obviously the most common thing you're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis is adding your new members into the system. So you're probably going to find that you're seeing two themes when it comes to adding people onto your club's list. So you'll have your novice archers who have, come to you. They've completed their beginners course to join the club. They're going to be most times brand new in the system. And they need to be added as soon as they've completed their course or as soon as reasonably possible after that's happened. You're also, though, going to come across people who've previously taken part in archery. So they might already exist within our system, in which case there's a slightly different process that you're going to need to follow to be able to get them onto your list and be able to add their membership. Because obviously, if they're already in the system, it's not going to let you create a second record for them. That would just end up being a duplicate. So for everybody that's here, I don't know to what extent you've already had a go at adding new members, but you've effectively got two stages that you're working on here. So you're going to add your new member and get them in the system so they're there in your list. And then after that, you're going to be going and adding their membership. So that person gets their membership number and their e-card. I'd like to think it's relatively straightforward, adding new members, but whether that's just because it's something I'm perhaps see on a bit more of a frequent basis, I don't know. But certainly what you're looking for when you're in your club's account is you're going to your athletes and you're pulling up your list so that you can see, it will show you everybody that's in the club at the moment, people that have been in the club in the past. And over on the right hand side, there is a button that lets you add a new athlete. Now, just thinking, as I said, purely we're just thinking about those people who are brand new in the system here. So it is purely a case of we're going to work through the new athlete information screens. So there is going to be basic fundamental information that we do need to you guys to gather for us, so that we can make sure we're accurate. So, name, address, date of birth. There are some other things in there, though, that you might not be expecting as you move along through the screens. So, for example, one of those is that person's email communication preferences in terms of what they'd like to hear about from Archery GB. Um, that is something that we'd like to be able to encourage our members to take responsibility for going in and updating as well. But, just to make you guys aware at this stage that that is something within the field that has to be filled out. So it would perhaps be, if you don't do it already, depending on what your application process is through the club, it is probably worth building something like that into your application process, just so that you've got the information and can add it in. The one thing I want to really flag up, though, as we're working through the screens here, is what happens when we get to this personal section within the options. So as you'll see, this is the area where it asks for your date of birth, nationality, and it asks you to select gender. Now, this in this context, I think there is a tendency to sometimes think that what we mean by gender is literally gender. It's not quite like that for us. So because we, as a sport, still have sex-based categories, what will normally be being entered here is the individual's sex at birth, because that's what they will be participating and competing within, unless they have gone through the process with Archery GB to be able to compete in their affirmed gender. So where they have and where they've received clearance from us to do that, then it is their affirmed gender that can be entered in here. It does mean that there are, depending on what the situations are within your club, there could be some sensitive conversations to have there. I think it will vary from person to person, perhaps, as to how open they feel about, disclosing information about sex at birth versus gender. I would really encourage anybody that, kind of comes across any scenarios where they're not certain what they should be doing here, or they don't know how best to capture something for a particular individual, to please get in touch and have a chat with us about it, because it's also important for us to be able to understand, what's happening within our clubs, and what the experiences, all of our volunteers are seeing, in regards to that. Because the only way we can look and understand what's going on, and about whether we need to develop our processes or look at a different way of capturing information, it's always going to be from hearing back from you. When you do reach the end of these screens, though, you will see an option pop up that lets you select done and add membership, and that will then take us onto the add membership stage. At this point, if that person is already in the system, you will get an advisory message that pops up for you. So the advisory message, as I said, just purely means that person already exists in the system. So if you get in touch with us and let us know the details of the person that you're trying to add, we'll locate their profile within the system and we'll manually move them onto your club's list for you. And then once you've got their details on your list, you'll be able to go in and just do the add membership stage for that person. So after you've clicked done and add membership, you've got a whole new series of screens to work through. The key things to watch out for are on the initial couple of screens in particular here. So the first thing it's going to ask you to do is to select a county. Now, this is the county organisation that your uni club is affiliated with, as opposed to it being, say, the county where they might normally live or something like that. So make sure you're selecting your uni archery club's county affiliation in that. It'll then ask you to select a membership type for the individual. If you start typing in, or you can scroll to the bottom of the list, there is an option that says university member that you can select, and that is probably the best one to use. When you move on to the next screen, make sure you're selecting your uni club from the list. Just keep an eye out, because we do have some similar-ish club names, or perhaps some which might start in a similar way but don't continue in the same way. So just be cautious and make sure that you're selecting the right one there, so that the person shows correctly as being on your club in their membership details. And then on the next page, the next section to really point out is, again, it's another section that links in to talking about sex at birth and gender as well. So in addition to being able to check details, it's in this particular screen where you're actually able to say if somebody's if somebody is disclosed that their gender isn't the same as their sex at birth, you are actually able to select that in here, so that we have that information, so we can understand really and understand numbers and look at impact for people as well. If you were to select that somebody's gender isn't the same as their sex at birth, there is a free text box that opens up, which isn't mandatory, but obviously if the person is happy for you to say, well, I'm non-binary or transgender, you can free type in there, but you're not obliged to do that. And then the rest of the screens are really very much a work through. Again, it's checking details that to a certain extent you've already input before now. But when you reach the end, once you click the add button, that member will automatically be given an Archery GB membership number, and the system will send them out a membership confirmation email with an e-card, so that automatically goes out to them, normally within about sort of 15-30 minutes of the membership being processed. And like with all emails, we would just say to just let people know to keep an eye on their junk or spam folder in case it lands in there. So I'm kind of conscious that I'm whizzing along a little bit, and with my view being on my screen, I haven't got any sort of any oversight at the moment of whether we're seeing any questions popping up. So Harry, if you spot any, give me a shout.
You're
And
good, as far as I can see. You're
yeah,
good.
that's fine. I'll pause, and we can always take any if needs be. So we're going to have a think now about what we're doing with people who are already in the system. Hopefully people who've already shot before and have had membership. I'd like to think that they will still have that in their mind and be able to share their membership number with you, because that will just make it a little bit easier for them to be able to be found and added. But sometimes we do have people who the last time they will remember was perhaps 5 or more years ago, so they don't always recall that has happened. But the pop-up message will alert you, and as I said, if you email us, then we will look for that person in our system and manually transfer them onto your list for you. So then when you go into your athletes and your list, once we've made that change, you will be able to see them there in it. So what you'll find is two kind of situations where we've had to transfer someone onto your list. So if we have a look at this top one that's here, this is an example of where somebody has started creating their profile in the Sport 80 system, but they've never got as far as adding membership. Sometimes it happens when people are quite keen to get started and then they realise after the fact, oh, actually, I didn't need to do that because I'm going through a club. So where that situation's happened, you'll see they won't have a membership number, they'll have an add button, which you can then click on to add their membership. In comparison, this one here, this is the sort of thing you'll see for somebody who's already been a member in the past. So they'll already have their membership number, and you will see a renew button next to their name rather than an add button. So you'll be able to click on that to deal with their membership, and their membership will be renewed under their existing membership number. So, you know, they'll be able to basically carry that membership number through, you know, throughout life for them, or as long as they may want to shoot. So some of the common questions we get in relation to membership, obviously, will I receive a membership card? We've had some good conversations initially in relation to membership cards, which has been fantastic. So as I said, at the moment, it's e-cards that are distributed, but obviously I've had a lot of feedback about you know, what would work well for your clubs as well. So that's something that I've captured and we'll be able to take forwards. You might have people asking why they haven't heard anything about their membership. That could very well, that most likely it's going to be to do with the email address. Is there, you know, is there an error that's within it? Or has the person just not realized that actually that email has arrived, but it's not landed in their inbox? It's gone into their junk or spam instead. If you do find an email address needs updating, just drop us a line and let us know that member's information and the correct email address, and we'll get that sorted out for them. Similarly, if somebody flags up that there's a mistake in the details that needs fixing, again, if you let us know, then we can get that sorted out. There is some basic information that you are able to edit yourself, but the kind of fundamentals in there, so when you're thinking about somebody's name or things like their date of birth, those are alterations that we need to make. But it might be, for example, if somebody was to say, well, actually, I prefer to be addressed by this title, or my address needs tweaking slightly. Those are things that you would be able to change by going into that member's profile and actually editing it yourself. Again, that comes down to, for some people, how comfortable they feel in moving around the system and doing these things. So as I said when I started, this webinar is very much geared around that kind of initial level and ways that we can do things, you know, which is why it's talking about emailing membership. For anybody that wants to take it further and get to know some more things they can do in there, then yeah, absolutely, that's something we can think about. How can we get that knowledge shared with you and get you able to do more within the system? Ooh, the right thing there. There we go. So the other thing you might hear is that people are having problems downloading their e-card, or they can't find the email with it in. A lot of the times when people are having problems downloading their e-card, it's because their download link has actually expired, because it does have a limited window of time to download it in. So in that situation, we can just resend the membership email and it will provide a fresh link that they can click on to download it. The same if somebody can't find their email, we can just resend the membership email again. You can by all means ask us to resend that to a person. That's absolutely fine, but it is something that you can go into and do yourselves. So you don't need to come to us on this one. So just go with whatever works most for you. But what you'll need to do is go into your athletes list and find the person that needs to have the email reissued. And then if you head over to this little icon here, it will actually open up that particular member's profile for you. And once you're in their profile, you can go to the memberships section over here. So once you click on memberships, you'll see the details that are there. And if you click on this green current button, what you'll then see when the window opens up is there is an option that says resend membership email, and you literally do just click on that, and you will see this pop-up message, normally quite promptly, depending on whether the system's having any laggy issues. But yeah, as soon as you see this particular message and you click OK on that, it's going to send everything out again. So like I said, something that you're able to do. If you're not comfortable with it, you don't have to. You can ask us to do that. So we'll have a quick look now at membership renewals. I won't necessarily go into loads of detail around this because I know that for most of the people that are on this call, you've probably already done this, you know, and it's something that's been done and sorted, in which case you can kind of park it until the next time that renewals comes around. But our membership year runs from the 1st of October in one year to the 30th of September the following year. And renewals normally start to be processed in the last month of the membership year. And we will commonly get in contact with all of our main contacts for our clubs just to let them know that that membership renewal window has opened, and to make them aware that they're now able to start their processing. There are actually two important aspects to this annual renewal process. So obviously the first thing people tend to think about is getting your members sorted and making sure their membership's in place. But the other really important job is making sure that your club's membership has been processed and paid for as well. Ideally, we encourage clubs to have their membership renewed by the 30th of September wherever they can, because if it's not done by then, when the 1st of October comes around, the system will look and go, okay, well, this club hasn't taken any action, so they must not want to be a currently affiliated club, which means your show has lapsed. And then you know, you may end up getting questions from potential members, about what the situation is with the clubs. It's a bit of a funny time period as well, though, because we are obviously conscious that, you know, for most of the universities, September is not necessarily a month where you might be back, you know, so it can end up being later in the month or even in October when you're doing it. But all we would say, you know, is as long as you guys are in touch with us and we know what's going on, and we have, you know, any questions or any requests for support are directed to us, then you know what, that's absolutely fine. We can work and support and you know, and really assist with that, because we know that that's what's going through at the moment. It's more a problem where we don't hear anything from anybody, and then we're left in a situation where you know, obviously we have to assume maybe that club does not want to be a club with us anymore. So this particular slide takes you through the club membership process. As I said, because it's something that's really been done, you know, at this stage, I would say by most of the clubs that we're seeing. I won't go through it bit by bit. I think the main thing that I would want to say in relation to this is Generally, what we see with our university clubs is that for most clubs, you're normally asking to have the payment method by payment advice, because that generates an invoice that can go over to the sports union so that they can pay for it. Once the sports union has sent payment over to us, we would normally try and get that reconciled really quickly so that your club's membership can update to current. But if you know that that payment's been sent, and let's say, I've said here sort of 5 days, let's say it's a week after the payment's been sent, and you log in and see the club membership is still pending, I would again really encourage people, get in touch with us and just flag that up and say, hey, I think something might be going on here. Because what we can sometimes find is payments come into us, they may not have a reference that we recognize on them, and so we have no idea what it's relating to. So it could be a situation where we've just not been able to identify that that payment is actually for your university club. And then once we've had that sort of communication and we're able to figure out that's what's happened, we can obviously get that reconciled really quickly and get your club showing as active. But once we've got you there, obviously we want you to be able to get going with renewing your members or adding your new members in once you've been doing your beginners courses. So chances are you will have people already on your list and you will be renewing them for another year. As we kind of touched on a few slides ago, for those people who are continuing on with the club, you'll see a renew button next to their name. So you'll be able to click on that and just work through adding their membership for another year on there. And that will get those people sorted. So I'd like to think renewing the members is going to be a more straightforward one. It does more tend to be the club membership renewal that can have its moments that catches people out. But again, as long as you tell us, we can help and support as needs be on that. We touched earlier on the fact that you don't have to have just one person who can access the Club Sport 80 account. It can be really, really helpful, I think, especially with how many things people have to do day to day, to have a few people that can access the account and do have different responsibilities. So the main contact, as I said, that's normally the secretary. They will have a super admin role and they can use that role to actually go in and grant admin access to other committee members as well. And what we're looking at in those situations is thinking about what's the best role that we're going to give to that particular person so that they can access the information that's relevant to what they need to do. Because obviously from a data protection point of view, there isn't necessarily a need for, for example, someone that's registering a competition, in that situation, their key access is really everything that's needed to do that, whereas they wouldn't necessarily need to see all the details that you have for all of your club members. So there are certain roles that do work best for depending on the types of activity you're doing. I've put a few examples down here on roles that suit what needs to be doing. But if you can think of anything else that you might have somebody in your club that's responsible for, feel free to flag that up, because we can have a look at the different roles that are available and maybe recommend what would work best to add for them so that they can add access in. So as I said, there is a way that you as super admin can do this yourself. As with everything that we've said before, if for any reason you didn't want to or you didn't feel comfortable doing it, you can contact us and just let us know what you want doing and who you want it doing for, and we can sort that out for you. But if you ever wanted to give it a go yourself, what you need to do in your club's account is you're going to go to your profile page and you come onto your edit profile button here. And once you're in, your very first screen is all about the roles that you can add for people. So this is very much about where you can say, okay, this is this committee member, and this is the access we want them to have. So if you want to grant access to someone, click on the add role button, and then it will ask you, the first thing it will ask you is it for yourself? And so you're obviously going to be selecting no. And then it will ask you to select what type of role you want. So this is very much going to hinge over on what does that person do. So if you've got somebody and you want them to be able to dip in and help you out with memberships, then the recommendation would be to select the club secretary role, because that will allow them to see your athletes list and access that add new athlete button that they'll need. If it was, somebody that's registering have-a-goes or beginners courses, then you could add something like club event admin. And that will then allow that person, when they log in, to be able to get to the club management system. But it will mean that there are other areas that they won't be able to see, like your athletes list, but because they don't necessarily need to be able to do it for their role. You can also add other positions in as well. If you want to tell us about who's your club chair, or who might be your membership secretary or your treasurer, you can add those details in as well. Those particular roles don't actually come with automatic access to the club's account, but it can be handy for us to have that information in there, especially when people phone in, because it just makes it easier for us then to be able to look and see, okay, can I discuss this club with this particular individual? So once you've selected a role, excuse me, it's going to ask for certain pieces of information. It's not all mandatory, so only the ones with the red star are. But the really, really important thing with this is you have to add the information exactly as it is on their Sport 80 profile. So if you don't put it in the same way, you'll either get an advisory message, or you might inadvertently create a random account for that person instead. So, one of the examples I've given here is just making sure that if their name was in as, for example, Alexander Jones, you'd need to enter their name as that. If you put in Alex Jones, then it's not going to link it up with that existing profile. So you can either fill in everything or just fill in the red starred fields, and then click on your submit button. And once you've clicked on your submit button, you'll see your person now on your list of active roles. And you just need to make sure that you scroll down and click the submit button again, because if you don't do that, the changes won't go ahead. But once you've clicked on that submit button on that screen, you will then find that on the front of your profile now, when you see the active roles listed there, it will then be up to date, and it will show the positions that you've added. And if you've added a role to grant access to somebody, generally that person should pretty much immediately be able to log in and see the impact of that. So if anybody was to attempt it and have problems doing that, it's normally just a case of actually log out, log back in. Sometimes you might need to give perhaps 15 minutes just in case the system needs a little bit longer to update it. But in our experience, it is a very, very quick change, and that people do see relatively immediately. And one of the key things that we need everyone to remember to do is about making sure that you hand over once you step down from your role and either move on, or perhaps you might move into a different position. We need to make sure that obviously the new committee members, they're set up correctly and they have the correct level of access to be able to take things on themselves. This is something, when it comes to handing roles over, Again, you are able to actually do this yourself in the system if you feel comfortable doing that. But again, you're not obliged to do it. You can ask us to do it. It's very similar to granting access to other committee members. So you basically do what we just did going into your edit profile. And for that new person, you're going to give them a super admin role and a club secretary role, basically the same roles that you've currently got. You then have to make that new person the primary contact for the club. And what you'll see is there are 3 dots to the right of that person's name. And if you click on those, it will give you the option to set them as the primary contact. So you can just click on the little star to set them as that. That will move their name straight away, showing as the primary contact. And the email address that displays will automatically update to theirs within 24 hours. So definitely the key thing to bear in mind is that the primary contact email address is not an immediate transfer over. But don't worry, there's nothing extra you need to do. You just need to give the system chance to catch up and do that. Once you've added your new person in, you then need to you'll then need to delete your roles, especially if you're no longer on the committee anymore. So this will be about, removing your own access. So you will go to your name in the list of roles and you'll see 3 dots to the right of it. And when you click on those, you'll see an option that says delete. And when you select that, it kind of moves you out of the active section into the historic roles section. So we've got that audit trail of who has, who has been involved with the club and who has had access in the past. But obviously it takes away that access, so you can't go in going forwards. And again, just make sure you're clicking on the submit button to make sure that those changes go through. And I'm now going to take a little bit of a breather because I feel a bit of a cough coming on, and hand over to Harry, just so we can tell you a little bit more about the role of the regional development officers, and also talk to you a little bit about the club management system. Do you want me to leave the screens up, Harry, or do you want me to knock them down and we can see your beautiful face instead?
No, I wouldn't subject people to that. So that's
very unkind, I feel.
The screen is really helpful. Listen, guys, I think Rhiannon's done a fantastic job so far of kind of all the membership side of things. So I won't keep you too long. Partially for 2 reasons, really. Because one, the role of the RDO will be different to everyone in different regions a little bit, because of the issues that you'll find will be different in the north to the south to the West Mids and East Mids, etc. But also, I don't want to tell you everything we do, because I encourage you to kind of reach out to your RDOs for any support that you may need. Because we're here to engage with everyone and as many people as we possibly can. And the whole point of our role is to help you guys, from in a multifaceted way, but develop your offering, your club or sessions, whatever it may be that you run. So there's a few bits written down here, and I'll kind of rattle through them because I don't want to do too much. I bet you get a lot of reading off slides from lectures and things. I was there only a couple of years ago, so I know it well. But yeah, so facility support is something that I've tapped into recently with a couple of our clubs, and that's multifaceted. That can be finding better facilities, working with your uni where possible, to have conversations around facility use, facility cost, etc. Or in the unfortunate instant that you might be losing a venue, we help you liaise with local clubs for short and medium term, I suppose, solutions. So there's lots we do around facilities, and that kind of also comes under planning for the future as well. We look at sustainability planning, and that kind of comes under what Rhiannon said earlier about being ready to hand over. Because you guys now are coming into possibly your second, depending on how your constitutions and how you do things. You might be in your first year as your position on the committee, second year on the committee in a different position. But the bottom line is that you are going to work hard for the club because that's why you're there. That's what you want to do, or you have been working hard for the club. And so that's why we're really big on planning for the future and sustainability planning, because we don't want the hard work that you put in place to then go to waste. So facilities comes under that to ensure that your facility is sustainable in the long term, financially, or accessible, is it accessible, etc., etc. So committee support, kind of self-explanatory as we just covered. Funding support as well. That's another one that, again, I implore you to reach out to your RDO, because every different county, let alone region, will have different funding opportunities. Strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. And so always go to your RDO if you are in need of a bit of advice on funding and what's available. Because if it's not a current contact that we have, it's one that we will reach out for you, and to find out more information. So that's a big one. And again, funding support, it comes under sustainability planning. Have we got, are we living above our means with facility hire, and those sorts of things. Sharing information is another big one. You guys will all be in similar situations in one way or another as students, whether that be the time that you have to run your clubs, whether that be how you encountering accessibility issues when you've got a Bucks fixture on a Wednesday and you've got to travel 3 hours there, 3 hours back. So we're really keen on getting our clubs to kind of into club network and into county network. So to come up with solutions that maybe you as a uni are encountering a problem, but a uni from half an hour away has already gone through that problem and has a solution put in place that is applicable to you. So that's a really big one. And community engagement it's a funny one for unis, because as closed clubs, yes, you could say that you are hamstrung slightly on your community engagement. However, it doesn't stop you doing things like, we qualified coaches doing things like beginners courses or have a goes, and then signposting to local clubs. So you generate a bit of income for your club, but then you can signpost to another local club that the individual or the participants may be able to go to, and you strengthen a relationship with your local clubs. So that, again, we come back to sustainability and future planning. Should you encounter any issues, you've got another club that are willing to help fight your corner. Does that make sense? So I think there are a lot of links between the roles of your RDOs, but every one of my colleagues has a massive variety of strengths and is really good at what they do, and have a massive passion for the sport, and as do you, and that's why you're in the positions that you're in now. So I really do implore that you just reach out. And I know that some people already have done. I know that my colleagues have got fantastic relationships with some of our university clubs, but if you haven't done, it will be so worth it. They all have an absolute wealth of knowledge in different areas that is so worth tapping into. And we get it. The students, it's a big role to take on, especially going into sort of your second and third year, when trust me, I know the feeling. There's a hell of a lot of work going on. So use us, use us for help and for support where we can. And yeah, if there's anything that you need from us, please, as Rhiannon said with memberships, do not hesitate to contact us. And if you can't, for whatever reason, get a contact, then I think Rhiannon's got some contact details of hers on here. She can signpost to us. It's all on the website, the Archery GB website as well. So by all means, give us a call, give us an email, and just get in touch.
Oh, thanks, Harry.
That's all right. And oh, sorry,
It's all right.
CMS as well.
No,
I
it's
just
fine
realised.
because now I can go. We can link it into the to this
Yeah.
one here.
So.
And see, you're even mentioned. I mentioned you on the slide. You're like a celebrity.
Perfect.
But yeah, so we're kind of going to give a bit of an overview now, or Harry is anyway, because so have a goes taster sessions and beginners courses should be being registered through the club management system. Now, Harry will tell you a bit more about that system and about, what it can be used for. But certainly from the point of view of having those details in the system so that we're aware that that event is going on, and obviously from an insurance perspective, it's important for us from that side of things. Harry has got a wealth of knowledge about the club management system that this is in, and as we kind of touched on at the beginning as well, it is new. It's new to everybody. People are really getting to grips with it at the moment. So very much about this, just give us your feedback, ask us those questions. But over to you, Harry, again.
So CMS, to put it bluntly, and to keep it nice and concise, the probably the main problem the barrier to using CMS we find is that people are concerned that it's different to what they've had to do previously, and therefore they're not quite sure how to use it, which is absolutely fine. And we are, as RDOs, we are more than happy for you to contact us. And I don't know if anyone's on the call that I've done this with previously, but I've already done this with a couple of our university clubs and a multitude of my clubs in my region. We are more than happy to set up a 10-minute call, so not to eat into your time, but to take you through it, share our screen and take you through it, because I promise you, it is the easiest thing you will come across, and that is a guarantee. And I will hang my hat on it. It is really straightforward. So, as it says there, they do session have a goes taster sessions and beginners courses must be registered in the club management system. This will take you between 2 or 3 minutes max, and that's a guarantee. Once you are confident in using it, and we show you, and I'm going to put, when I finish talking, I'm going to put the two, because I've had a technical issue, as always goes, and I was going to take you through it tonight, but I'm going to put the two CMS introductory YouTube videos, which I think are a total across the two of them of about 20 minutes or half an hour, that will take you through how to set up your CMS to what you would like and what you require from it, and how to book a course in. Now, as it says here, you do not have to. There is a feature that means you do not have to make anything public. You can literally just register it in the calendar. Now, I think it was Luke right at the start said if you weren't sure whether it was registered properly. Now, when you register an event, it should show up when you then go back into the CMS. It should show up in your calendar for the allotted day and the allotted time. If that isn't the case, once you think you've registered it, I promise you it is an issue that we've encountered. It will likely be that there's just a box that you haven't filled in, which is not a problem. We will go through, contact us, we will go through it with you, and you'll be as right as rain in 30 seconds. It is really straightforward. So the beauty of booking an event on CMS is that, as I say, you don't have to make it public. You can if you want, for whatever reason you may be doing something, but you don't have to do anything with it. Just register it, and you can make it really specific and really straightforward. So I would just encourage you, as per it says at the bottom. So what you'll do, I can take you through it now, word for word, but I encourage you to reach out to your RDOs like myself, and we will just take you through it visually, share our screen, and you can see it all. We'll take you through it in your own time, so you're not rushing anything through, and you can ask questions, you can double check things. I'm happy to sit and then let you have a go in front of me so you know what you're doing. But basically what you'll do is you'll go in to book a session, and it gives you, it tells you the link to follow. And then you'll have a pop-up on the right of your screen, which you'll fill out. So the date of the event, and the location and the nature of the event. So have a go, taste session, etc. And then you'll go into, it will give you three tabs that you then have to fill out. The images and the kind of the last tab is images. You don't have to touch that one. You just go through a page that gives you an option of the attendees, the number of attendees, whether you want to make the event public, what type of event it is. You always put archery, unless you're trying something really crazy, in which case I would not do that. Would not do that. And the next page will go through just the kind of the any accessibility, where it is, meeting point instructions, etc. And then once you've done that, that should then be set up in your calendar. But as I say, if it isn't then set up when you go into your CMS and into your calendar, it's really not a problem. We will go through it with you, and you will know why, what button you didn't click that time, and you'll be happy moving forward. So if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to email the email at the bottom of this slide, and get in touch with us, and we'll take you through it, and you'll be absolutely fine. Okay.
If anybody would like to just have some initial information as well that they can read through before perhaps reaching out to us, there is a section on the Archery GB website as well that you are able to have a look through. So if I bring up the website here for us. So if you go into the club section, the clubs heading, and then go to club guides, all the way down at the bottom, you will see club management system. So if you click on that, there is, as I said, initial information that gives you some background on the system, but then does also show some videos that talks about setting up and making bookings, and does contain some step-by-step guides in there as well. So you can also use that as a support resource, but really very much as Harry has said there. And I know it's been an overriding theme so far of this webinar, but it sounds so corny to say, but we really love it when we hear from everybody, and when people do reach out. It honestly does. Even the stuff that you might be asking us perhaps because something's gone wrong, or it might seem a bit tricky. We do really like that, because it's so important for us to know what's going on and how people are getting on. So yeah, please do get in touch.
Those just to jump in, those two links are now in the chat as well.
Oh,
so
fabulous.
So if you want to just have a look at those in the meantime, and then any questions, just drop us an email.
So the last couple of slides that I've got here, I've put on, and they will be available in the webinar slide pack that I'll make available to everybody. It's not necessarily something that you may find you have to do as your time as the secretary or main administrator. So this is doing your range registrations. So basically everywhere that the club shoots at needs to be registered as a range that you make use of, and that is you basically need to declare that it complies with the rules of shooting, or that maybe it conditionally complies with those rules. Those range registrations last for 3 years at a time, and so every 3 years a renewal notification will come through to whoever is the primary contact for the club. So this may be something that you will never have to do in your time as an admin. Really does hinge on when those ranges were first registered as to whether you're going to need to do it. If a range, though, was to reach the end of its registration period and it's not renewed, and the club, it's the only range that the club has, at that point, what you'll find will happen is that the club's membership will actually be suspended at that stage, because without having a valid range to shoot at, the club can't really be classed as a club, so to speak. Part and parcel of being a club is having somewhere that you're shooting at. So with that, that will obviously then affect the status of your memberships as well. And the only reason I mention that is purely just so if you do get a notification through that the range is due for renewal and you think to yourself, actually, I don't know what I need to do now, get in touch with us. Don't leave it, because it could result in more questions along the lines along the line from your members. If you do ever want to have a look and see what's currently registered for your club, and in fact, this is also where your renewals are completed as well, just go into the club's account and you will see underneath the profile, you'll see that option range registrations. So if you click on that, you will see a list of every range that's currently registered. You'll also see any historic ranges as well that had been registered in the past and have run out. So they've either been superseded by one of the current ones has now replaced that, or their ranges that the registration came to an end and actually you genuinely don't shoot there anymore, so you didn't need to do anything of it on it. If you ever want to see more about the details of that range, though, just click on the current button underneath status and you'll actually see all the a pop-up screen will come up, and as you go through it you'll be able to see what's been entered in relation to that range. As you can see, I've not really gone very much into this because it was really a case of being a bit hit and miss as to whether it's something you will find you ever need to do or you don't. So I would very much say, if it happens in your lifetime and you do get that email, please, you can get in contact with your regional development officer and ask for their help in what you need to do. Or we've got a dedicated email address, range@archerygb.org, and you can always email into that as well to pose that question. And again, it's something that we would look to support you with and make sure that you've got the right information so that you can either get a new range registered or you can renew an existing range that's on there. And then that brings me to our final slide. If anyone has any questions, you are more than welcome to ask them now. Or if there's anything you want to learn about in future, please let us know. My email address is here, so if you want to do that privately, you're more than welcome to just email me directly, and I'll follow up on that route for you. But as I sort of wind this slide down, and I will close this slideshow down, thank you very much for your time and for listening to everything that I've kind of rattled on about there for you. So yeah, does anybody have anything they would like to ask? Oh, I'm going to hope. Fingers crossed. That's a good sign. Oh yeah, go on then, Daniel. What would you like to know?
I just had a thought as you were going through.
Sure.
It seems like, or at least some of the issues we've encountered with Sport 80
Yeah.
have sort of centered around people having issues with email addresses,
Okay.
and then duplicate accounts because
Yes.
someone in the past has just created another account.
Yeah.
So I don't know if whether it's something you'd have to bring up with Sport 80 or you can do sort of internally, is seeing as an AGB number is the one thing that stays the same, using that as the primary identifier for accounts instead of email address.
Would make sense, wouldn't it? Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few. I think it's a really valid point, and I think I would add into that as well that one of the reasons why we sometimes see these things happening is because perhaps the people who are stepping into role have just not necessarily been equipped with any kind of resources or information as well. That's something that is a particular focus of mine at the moment, because I feel really strongly that the more we can empower people to navigate their way around the system and do what they need to do, I feel like that can only make things better for everybody, and will hopefully then reduce the time you may have to spend kind of going, I don't know why that's showing like that, or why is that gone a bit weird. But yeah, I think anything we can do to sort of try and minimize that type of thing happening can only be a benefit, and something like the roles and how that data is captured would certainly play a part in that. So that's great feedback, Daniel. Luke, what are you thinking?
So the president of my club, I'm the secretary, wants more guides on CMS, because certainly when I was doing it, it almost seemed a bit too easy. Like, there wasn't a confirmation email that stuff was registered. It just was accepted, and I'm I just wasn't entirely sure if everything was good for your end. And we did have an issue recently with getting our new coach registered, because renewals were coming up for membership, and he didn't want his membership to be transferred to our club, but he still wanted we still wanted to give him a coach role on Sport 80, and to this day I haven't got a response, and the ticket hasn't been resolved as far as I know.
Okay. Yeah, so certainly from that point of view, just thinking about that second part of it. So yeah, it has been an incredibly busy time. As soon as membership renewals start, our inquiries really do, as do telephone calls. So we do try and we'd obviously have to try and prioritize the queries that are coming in, and clearly if you've still got one in there, Luke, we've not got around to it yet, which we do need to take a look at. It sounds like then you've got somebody who is already an existing member, perhaps they're already in a club, so really it sounds like they're almost going to that they're almost an associate member in some ways, although they're not a member of the, presumably are they a member of the university? Are they a student as well, Luke? Or
no, the coach is from a local club.
Okay.
He called in to double check if there was an issue, and there was, and it's been resolved. So
okay.
Yeah.
So as long as that person has got their membership in place, obviously they're then coming along and working with your club and providing that coaching support that's there, and that that's absolutely fine for them to do that. Are you looking to potentially have them with a role in the Sport 80 system then? Is there information you want them to be able to access, or what's that side of things like?
So I wanted to give them a Sport 80 role, which I did do. But then something happened with their membership, and I assumed they were transferred or something to my university's club, which is not what we wanted to
what was
happen.
intended.
He's not a member. It's just useful if he accesses the system.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a bit of a slightly unique situation in there, because obviously when you're thinking about giving access to people, you've obviously got to be very aware of your data protection regulations there. So if you've got somebody that isn't a member of the club's committee, we'd have to tread very carefully, because there's a lot of personal and private data on there that you don't want them to be able to access. It's a really interesting scenario that you're raising there, Luke. So obviously in my head, I'm thinking, I need to dig this out and have a really close look at it for you. I'll be very interested to see what's going on there, but leave that with me. I will have a dig to find that through, and I will have a good look into what's going on with that and come back to you on it. But you know, as we've always said along the way, there will be some form of solution or answer or something. You know, just sometimes it takes a little bit of digging around to find out what that may be. Katie.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for running this for us. It's been really helpful. It would be great if this has been recorded, if we could share this with future members as well, because I mean, for our committee, we did the handover back in like July. So even though this has been really helpful, it would have been helpful also to have it several weeks ago. So it'd be great if we could take a recording of this somehow and pass it on to future committee members.
We have. So I'm not sure what, because we were late starting today, Katie, due to some technical issues. So I'm not sure whether you may have arrived after I'd already announced that the webinar was being recorded. So we will have this recording there. So we're going to get it posted onto our Archery GB YouTube channel as well, so that it's going to be accessible to everybody. And also the slide pack that we've used in it. You know, I'm more than happy to, you know, I'm quite, I'll just merrily share that around. I don't see any need for that to be sort of held closely to our chest that's on there. The more that you guys have got and that you can then pass over to your new committee people, the better it is for everybody as well. So yeah, that will be coming out as well. But absolutely, you know, it just links in again with that whole thing of, you know, whatever you might think of in terms of what you need and what would benefit your club, you know, from a resources point of view or a webinar point of view, shout it out. Honestly, really, really open to hearing that. And we would rather be able to help than have people feel that they've got to try and muddle their way through themselves. So yeah, absolutely. Any thoughts that you have or anything like that, you are always welcome to get in touch with us. There you go. Anything else while we're at it? Okay. Well, if anything does come to mind, you've got our details. So, you know, reach out. That's absolutely fine. I do feel like I've been a bit of a broken record saying the same things that are on there. So thank you for putting up with me. Thank you, Harry, for coming and supporting throughout this. I really appreciate the information you've been able to give and just you offering yourself up, as it were, as a contact for inquiries. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really appreciate it.
Definitely.
If you do happen to come across anybody who you know, happens to mention to you, oh God, I wish I'd known about that, I'd have come, or anything, you know, or anything like that, you're more than welcome to say to them, well, actually it has been recorded, but they've got a resource pack that you know they'll share with you. So if you just want to drop a line to the membership team, we'll forward that on. Feel free to share that to you know, sort of any other club secretaries you come across who might mention it. But yeah, aside from that, I would say that is all. Please feel free to revert to normal life or whatever it may be you've got left to do tonight before tomorrow starts. And yeah, anything you need, you know where we are, and we will be more than happy to help with that. All right, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very